G'day, I'm Damo and welcome to our Compnow and Jamf Education webinar. We'll be covering a lot of ground today. There'll be a focus on some of the key WWDC updates that we hope you're already using or testing. We'll look at some unique Jamf offerings that help you get the most out of your Apple devices at school and home. And looking off ahead to JNUC, the Jamf Nation User Conference, taking place in early October in Nashville. Joining us to give you all the knowledge straight from the source is Jamf's Education System Engineer for ANZ, Aaron Zanbaka. Welcome, Aaron.
Hey, Damo. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. Let's start off with our WWDC announcements. We're not going to go into a huge amount of detail here. We did a recap video here at Compnow not long after WWDC took place at the start of June, but just going to take a bit of time to focus on some of the key updates for you. And I might start off, Aaron, if that's all right.
Sure.
Activation lock removal in Apple School Manager is a brand new feature. So it's something that I guess is an overlay to some of the great functionality that Jamf solutions have already got around activation lock. But now, just in case, for whatever reason, those MDM-based controls aren't available to you to remove an activation lock of a user who's maybe departed your school and needing to use that device again, you're going to be able to go into Apple School Manager and search for that device by serial number, and then with a couple of clicks, remove activation lock directly there. So, Aaron, how does that actually compare to what you can do with Jamf?
It's a really good point, and I think it's going to be a massive benefit to schools, because with the restrictions you can have in place through Jamf, you need to make sure that you're doing that through automated device enrollment, and that you got there with that restriction before the end user actually activated that activation lock. So if they linked it to a personal ID or anything like that, with the Apple School Manager enhancement, we can get there as long as the user hadn't had that uploaded. So if you've gone through Apple Configurator and uploaded your device, providing the activation lock wasn't already set, the school will be able to remove it via Apple School Manager. So that's a huge benefit to educational institutions.
Awesome, and I suppose a lot less calls through to Apple support for that. We need, there's nothing else, there's no other option. We need your help, Apple, sort of option. Speaking of Apple School Manager, and I guess it applies to Apple Business Manager as well, Vision Pro is getting automated device enrollment as well, with Vision OS 2 coming out soon.
Yeah, look, super exciting. I think everybody is excited about the Vision Pro, and you know, as we look to the future, that's something that I'm really excited to see how it can get picked up in education and the new use cases. I remember when the iPad was released, thinking, you know, just in the sense of textbooks, how heavy my school bag was when I was in year 7, 8, 9. Imagine if I had this and everything was on there. I think we're going to get amazing new possibilities with something like a Vision Pro. So really excited.
Yeah, we're keenly awaiting some sort of confirmed notification about being able to provide Vision Pro to our education customers. Very recently, we gained approval to sell them to our enterprise customers. So it is in works. Hopefully we'll have some great news to share on that front soon. And just incidentally, I did get mine at 9 a.m. on launch day, and I've probably worn it for an average of 4 hours a day. So yeah, you definitely know who to come to at Compnow when you've got Vision Pro needs. Beta management is another key update. I think not one of the biggest features in terms of like excitement and all of that sort of stuff, but I think this is one that really helps our customers use Jamf solutions and their Apple devices in the best way possible. Like, we are in the thick of beta testing period at the moment after WWDC, and now with some of these changes, it looks like it's going to be even easier for IT to help their users do beta testing for them, a bit more management capability there.
Absolutely. So, I mean, Jamf, we always are encouraging people to be testing with betas, not just the Apple betas, but you've also got Jamf betas that are available to you.
Indeed.
And, you know, being able to provide feedback is important because it helps us as an MDM provider and a security provider as well ensure that everything's working in your organization, but being able to test those with the new features that have been released and we all working to get there together. So that's really important. And then Apple have provided a lot of new sort of functionality in the services that they're providing to help us have those devices pre-assigned as beta testing devices so that we don't have to go through any manual workload. We can really automate that and help us streamline it. So if we're trying to find time to beta test, this makes it a far more exciting user experience and streamlined user experience.
Absolutely, and like not jumping through hoops with developer accounts or config profiles being excessively hassly and all of that sort of stuff. So fantastic. One of the other features that's been announced and spoken about in and amongst all the other WWDC features, but actually predates WWDC by a few weeks or maybe a couple of months, in iPadOS 17.4 and macOS 14.4, the Classroom app gained the ability to have both admin-created and ad hoc. I believe Apple's terminology is admin-created or teacher-created. So that's using Apple's awesome Classroom utility, which we'll have a little bit more on later, to be able to control the use of devices and view what a student's doing. Previously, you had the option to have admin-created ones through Apple School Manager pushed out via Jamf, and kind of like a formal, according to your school timetable usually. But there was always another option for a teacher with Classroom on their iPad to just create a class ad hoc and then have other students join. So I know it's something Karen Pastro, who's our longest serving Apple Professional Learning Specialist, has been very big, particularly for primary schools, about the flexibility of ad hoc classes and how they can really make the device usage in the classroom so much easier. But previously, if you were signed in with a managed Apple ID, or managed Apple account, as we need to get used to calling them, you couldn't use the ad hoc classes. So if you wanted all the benefits of a managed Apple ID, you couldn't have all the flexibility of the ad hoc classes. So it's just nice to know that Apple have removed that restriction for us. I think let's move away from some of the more Apple-specific things to some Jamf tools. So we are here to talk about all things education, and I think, Aaron, we're going to cover three particular apps that Jamf give us first off here. Two, a bit of a and B pair, and a third one that does some really amazing things that I can't wait to tell you a few things about from my own personal experience. But Jared, shall we start talking about Jamf Teacher and Jamf Student?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So we've got a couple of iPads here, and we can run through a classroom experience. Basically, the Jamf Teacher and Student applications are designed to be used in the classroom to help keep focus on learning, remove distractions in the classroom, and also provide a safe and inclusive environment in that classroom, which is really important to Jamf in the way that we work. And so for the demo that we've got today, you've got the teacher device in your hand, and I've got the student device in my hand. And one of the things that I've learned from my time working at Jamf and working around education and supporting educational institutions is if you're going to give teachers technology, they want to make sure that it's going to work for them and they have faith in that device and that technological solution working. So that's one of the amazing things about the Jamf Teacher and Student app is a lot of it is facilitated through MDM. And that means when we're providing restrictions to the device, we are locking that device in, and they are not things that can be turned off by any tricky workarounds via the student. And they also complement Apple's Classroom app, for example, to streamline that classroom experience and provide teachers with the best of both worlds.
So I think a lot of people would look at the feature sets and be like, oh, Classroom and Jamf Teacher, there's a lot of similarity there. So how are they used best in combination with each other?
Yeah, so you have a lot of flexibility around how you would use them, and that's the important thing. So if a school's IT team needs to make certain decisions and they want the teacher class experience to be launched through the Classroom app, they can do that, or they can launch it through the Teacher app. So they have the choice. And then Apple's Classroom app has some really amazing features like the screen shareability, which is a closed API. So that's not available for external vendors to leverage, but that's why we've designed the Jamf Teacher app to work in tandem with that Classroom app so that a teacher can take advantage of the best of both worlds. And so if I was running a classroom, I would typically run the class through the Teacher app and have my restrictions apply through there. And I've also got the ability for the student to either message all the students or have them message me, and we'll show what that looks like in a minute. But I could view the student's screen if they needed help without drawing attention to them, which is really important. So being able to create an inclusive classroom also means you don't want any child to feel singled out, and through the Apple Teacher app, they could reach out to the teacher and the teacher could say, let's have a look at the app, and they could have a look at what that student's doing. In the Apple Classroom app as well, you can launch a student into an app. So there's a lot of workflows that you can use together that will really streamline how you're approaching the classroom experience. And they're simple to use, and that's the most important thing as well.
Exactly.
We can run a classroom session. So I've got my student device. I've got a bunch of apps that have been assigned to me. To keep things on track as well, you'll see that on your device, you've got a yellow wallpaper, so we can quickly identify that that is the teacher device. We've also got a blue wallpaper on the student device, and we've got some tags that we've applied through Jamf School on the background, so we can quickly see whose device it is, what school they're a part of, and we've used variables to quickly identify that. So we can scale that quite well.
Awesome.
Now, as a student, I don't need to launch the student app. But as a teacher, if you wanted to start a class, you would just launch that student app, the teacher app, sorry, and you can see you've got a couple of different options. So if you click on the little navigational bar at the top, we've got our classes, and they're Apple School Manager Sync classes that we've got created. And then I've also got lesson templates, which are ones that I, as a teacher, may have built already. So we've got this class, Compnow Webinar class that we can run today, but we could also make a new one through a template. So we'll have a look at that in a second, but we'll start things off by running this Compnow session. So if you wanted to click on that for me, Damo.
There we go.
Cool. So in here, you'll be able to see that we've got a couple of restrictions in place. We've got some websites that we're determining that the students are going to be using for this class, and we've got some apps that are part of this classroom session. And we can see which year groups we might want to assign it to. So if I've got this class built out and I'm ready to run it, all I need to do is just verify that that's what I want. I can also add restrictions if I wanted to. We can decide the time that we're going to run the class. So I've got this class, we'll make it run for 3 minutes, I reckon, for this classroom demo, and we can click apply. And then it's going to lock our students in. So on the student device, we can see that all of my apps that aren't a part of this, so I'll get you click done because we've only got the one device. So this is Mark Viduka's iPad, and he's now locked into this classroom session. So I've got the ability to go to Notes, to Clips, Safari, and the camera. So if I were to launch Safari, you can see in the allowed websites, I've got a couple of options. So it's taking me into the Jamf website. But if I look at my favorites, we've got the greenlit websites as bookmarks. So as a student, I don't need to actually type in that site. They're conveniently placed in that toolbar for me. So I can go to Compnow, I can go to Apple Australia's website, and I can also go to the Jamf website. But if I were to try and go to Google, so I can search for that right here, it's not going to let me do it because it's a restricted site. So this way, we've got two sets of controls that really allow us to lock into learning and focus in the classroom. I've got the ability to only go to the websites that are being dictated, and we can also lock them into subsets. So if we were going to go to look at dinosaurs on a museum's website, we can keep the students focused on that dinosaur section. They can't go look at the Egyptian category on there as well. We can say this is all you're gaining access to. Or if we were going to look at the museum as a whole, we can say anything on that site is available, which is really good. But then also the apps, I've got the apps that I wanted to use. And one of the restrictions we set is also spell check and autocorrect. So if I'm launching my, if I'm going to have a note that I'm going to use to take stock of what we're learning in this classroom, and I spelt dinosaur wrong, it's not going to autocorrect that for me because we want the students to engage and understand and build those skills that we want to teach them in the classroom. So we can use those ad hoc restrictions to quickly lock a student in and keep that focused.
And just as easily though, you could choose to allow spell checking and autocorrect if the emphasis for that lesson was more on teaching the students what it looks like. And so you got the best of both worlds, really easily being able to like turn it on if it's necessary, but turn it off or leave it off if it doesn't need to be there.
Absolutely. And one of the things I really love about the Teacher app is the ability to build on what's maybe already been created, what you've been given, and then share that with your fellow teachers. So, we can end this class if we wanted to, and then we can go back to our lesson templates, and we could create a new one. So if you were to click on that, we can give this a title.
Shall we call it webinar?
Yes, absolutely. So if you create that class, so this is how easy it is to actually build a ad hoc class. So if I had a great idea and I wanted to run a lesson, I could do this. Or if in the afternoon, I wanted to get something down because I had an idea for a class tomorrow and I was going to come back and review it, we can absolutely do that. So we can set our allowed websites. So if you ticked on that, click add website. For this one here, we can just do the Compnow website.
Sure thing.
Cool. And so if you click add website, that little there, then you can apply that. Now,
fantastic.
We've got some restrictions that we want to add. So one thing we'll notice as well is it automatically added Safari to our allowed apps because we said that we're going to lock a student into a website. So it knows that we need Safari for that to work. So you won't be stuck without Safari, but we're wanting to run if we forgot to add that in there. So now we've got some categories. So let's say the camera is not needed for this. So let's restrict the camera. Cool. And we're going to, if you scroll down a bit more, so we saw before that we can disable AirDrop if we wanted to, and we can also restrict making screenshots and recordings. We're not going to do that, but spell check and autocorrect, maybe we want to restrict that again. Sure. So we can click apply now, and that's set. And then we've got some allowed apps. So let's add some apps in there.
Okay.
So this is giving me a list of apps that I've got available to restrict, and I could go through, might allow the student app, and we might allow the notes app. Cool.
And apply.
We can apply that. Perfect. Now, if there was an app that I needed and I wanted to run with the class, through the Teacher app, we've also got the ability to do app requests. And so I could have that, if we had licenses available, have that automatically deploy to the students' devices.
Awesome.
Which is really cool. And then we can also make a request if we didn't have that available, but it was a couple of days before the class and I wanted it to go to IT, and they would be able to approve or deny that. Amazing. So for this quick class that we've run, we might hit start, and we will make this class go for 5 minutes because we're going to go through a couple of other things. And then year 5 is our group, and we'll click apply.
Fantastic.
So just going to find Mark Viduka's device again. And so once we've got one device applied, we can, cool, I can see that's already locked in, and then click done.
Nice green tick.
And if we go back, I've got the ability as a student to raise my hand and let the teacher know that I need assistance. So that's really cool. That's a way that I can do this through the device. But if we go back a bit further, I can see as well that I've got the ability as the teacher to message the students. And so I can reach out and tell everybody, save your work, if I wanted to message the whole class because we're going to move on to something else. Or I could address that raised hand so we can see what's going on with that student, and I might bounce into Apple Classroom to facilitate that lesson.
Amazing.
So another thing that we can do is the heads up feature, where basically if I want to, or the attention screen, where if I needed all of the students to pay attention and not just be clicking around, because we know that these devices are amazing and there's so much we can do with them, but they can be a real distraction in the classroom if students are going off track, or if I needed to get focus from everybody. So this focus screen allows us to put a big lock on the screen with a custom message, and then I can tell the student, hey, it's time to focus. We're going to go through, pay attention to these instructions, and then away they go. Where I see that used really well is if a class is going to go outside of the classroom. Because this is all running through MDM and the restrictions there via MDM, it doesn't matter about the proximity. So as long, and it's quite a small payload, so even if the students are just on the edge of the Wi-Fi, and I need everybody to come back to class, I might lock those devices so they can't do anything with them anymore and say, come back to class, we're going to finish things off, and then everybody can regroup and we can finish off that lesson.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's a really quick demo of the classroom experience, right? But when the student goes home, there's also something that we can do with an app called the Jamf Parent app, which allows us to apply some of those restrictions, like the limited app view and to the student device, but the parent has the control of that. So if we finish our school day and the device goes home and a parent said, okay, I want to have restrictions on my child's device until 7:30, so they've got time to do homework, we can apply those restrictions. And maybe it might also be that at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, we're locking that device into the clock, and that's all they can do until the morning, because I don't want them waking up in the middle of the night playing games or going on Safari or YouTube and losing sleep, so they can go to school the next day feeling fresh, ready to learn, and the device is being used for the purpose of school education. And there's those benefits that reward if you did your homework, then you've got access to the fun games that are on there, but they're not there all the time, and remembering what the device is being used for.
Exactly, and it's worth noting as well that Apple devices can't be managed by more than one MDM solution. So whilst there are solutions like family-oriented solutions for device control at home, normally they're incompatible with school-managed devices. So what Jamf Parent is able to do for you, I guess, is extend all of that power to manage the device and restrict what you need restricted and enable what you need enabled. That power is being passed on to the parents and guardians of the students, and knowing, well, there's probably many people watching this webinar who have leadership responsibilities as well as technical responsibilities, and being able to close that gap in terms of the devices that we are saying the child needs for their education going home, and we know that they can, when they're not managed properly, they can cause some issues. So being able to address that sort of stuff actually it doesn't absolve the school of all responsibility related to technology usage at home, but you can see that for leadership, it kind of reduces the responsibility because you're sharing it with the parents and guardians to be able to configure those devices. So, and I might as well just add, Aaron, this is something I used Jamf School when I was IT manager at a school prior to joining Compnow. And I used that sort of logic to get the principal who he didn't quite get what it did and why it was necessary. But when I was able to explain it, saying, we can allow parents to control these iPads when they're at home. And so the number of calls that you get about so-and-so accessing a site that they shouldn't have and those sorts of things will be greatly reduced. And we actually ended up letting our parents opt in to taking full control and having access directly to the Jamf Parent app and being able to set exactly those restrictions and configurations. But for those who didn't want to actually go to that effort doing it themselves, we offered them a sort of a standard set of restrictions where from the end of school till about 6 or 6:30, every app was available to allow for homework to be completed and all of that sort of stuff. And then after that period until bedtime, I think it was Mathletics and the e-library app that we had. And then I know it's a cool idea to allow the clock overnight so they can set alarms and stuff like you mentioned before. But basically after bedtime until just before school the next morning, the iPad could do nothing, couldn't be used, was not going to be a source of potential hassles, staying up too late reading or doing other less savoury activities on a school device as well. And then basically when school starts the next day, control switches back to Jamf, and it's doing everything it needs to on-site in the classroom at school. So I think best of both worlds level of coverage and something I still think is flying under way too many people's radars. Like this can make a big difference to your technology program.
I definitely think it offers huge potential, but then also the choice is the really important part, because some parents might not want to apply any restrictions. Others may say, no, we really do want to apply those for their own reasons. And also the school has the ability to opt in or out. They don't need to have this as something that's available. Exactly. And then also around digital equity, it doesn't matter if the parent is using an Apple device or an Android device, that element is supported by both. So they could go to the App Store or the Google Play Store to get that. Fantastic.
So yeah, definitely recommend you have a look into Jamf Parent. And if it's something you need more information about, we'll have some contact details at the end. So what's next? Do we have any other Jamf-related services to discuss, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, kind of a flow-on to what we've been talking about is Jamf Safe Internet, which it's a security tool that goes onto your macOS devices as well as your iPad or iOS devices, and can also service Chrome OS and Windows if you did have a mixed fleet in your school. So while our management tools are definitely Apple first and Apple best, our security tools, in the sense of Jamf Safe Internet, can extend to the other devices you may have in your school environment.
That is an interesting bit of flexibility, actually. I note that in certain solutions, Jamf are broadening the scope to what they offer, which is interesting. So I suppose if you're not running an Apple environment and you're watching this, you can maybe at least live a little bit vicariously by using Jamf Safe Internet if you don't have the hardware yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good point, because if a school is transitioning to a more dominant Apple fleet, then they don't need to run two tools in tandem. And the technology that Safe Internet's built around is not dependent on the hardware type, which is why we can offer that cross-platform. However, if you are using Apple devices, we do have on-device content filtering. So you've still got that Apple first, Apple best experience on those devices. And on-device gives you greater controls and better response times as well. And it is native, and that gives you the best end-to-end experience for your Apple devices.
Absolutely. So having that sort of coverage from Jamf Safe Internet is wherever the device goes, correct?
That's right. So, you know, at a school environment, you might already have your Fortinet or your, on-premise infrastructure that is, doing the content filtering side of it and also protecting against some security threats, right? What we can do with Jamf Safe Internet is make sure that no matter where the device is, it is protected. So we might let our on-premise infrastructure take over when we're connected to our school Wi-Fi network. But if a student were to drop off to tether to be on a home network, we can continue that protection of the device. So, we are dealing with a rapidly evolving threat landscape and what happens on those devices and the sophistication of the sort of types of attacks, whether it's phishing, smishing, or cryptojacking, anything like that. We want to make sure that those devices are protected at all times. And that's where Jamf Safe Internet really offers an extreme level of value to schools, student wellbeing, and the ability to really make sure that at any time, anywhere, those devices are protected from these modern threats.
Well, it definitely sounds like schools will have a great time when they take advantage of features like that. But how would a school choose to learn more about it, Aaron?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And part of the webinar resources will definitely have some videos and some documentation, both high level and deep dive. For the education apps, one of the best ways you can really get immersed in them is going to something we've got called the Jamf Educator. Basically, it is an online certification with two different tracks. One is for your EdTech and one is for teaching and learning. It gives you simulations and lets you understand how the apps work, so you don't need the device in your hand to test that classroom experience. And then you get a certification at the end. So that helps you say, yep, cool, I'm a Jamf educator, and that is a really nice way of getting that recognition to say, I've gone through, I've spent the time, I've done that and I understand it. It's a fun course and really streamlined. And then for something like Jamf Safe Internet, I guess the best thing you could do is work with Compnow to get testing, understanding how it would fit into your organization, and that also flows through to those education apps as well, because they're all free and part of whatever Jamf education tool you're using. So if you're using Jamf Pro or Jamf School, you have access to these already. They don't come at an additional cost. And then Safe Internet is something that they would work with you to understand how it could fit into their environment and best be used.
Yeah, it's always impressed me the efforts that Jamf go to by creating apps like this to make their solutions as good as they possibly can be. It's awesome. I suppose other ways that people can find out more about some of the Jamf stuff that we've spoken about in this webinar, it's coming up at the start of October with the Jamf Nation User Conference, aka JNUC. I'm excited. I'm very fortunately, Aaron, one of the 4 Compnow staff who are being sent across. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of us Apple and Jamf engineers who will be going across to not only attend JNUC, but there's a special partner day as well on the Monday where we learn a little bit more about how we can work more effectively with Jamf for our customers. So it's going to be an action-packed week, and I think we've got a few sessions to point towards, and quite a few Australian Jamf staff or Jamf customers will be presenting there as well. So probably kick it off with a very well-known Jamf engineer from the consulting engineers team, Dan McLaughlin, who is co-presenting with Misha Vanderbent, who may be a familiar name from the Installamator documentation. He's made a big contribution to that. But basically, they're co-presenting understanding Apple's deployment workflows and how to master them. So it's going to be one of the first cabs off my rank to look at that one. And your friend and mine, Winston Wong, is doing automating secure access control with device compliance and Jamf Connect ZTNA. Marcus Ransom's doing one as well, I think, Aaron.
Yeah, so Marcus and Stu Lamont from NAB are doing one, migrating to Jamf Cloud in a high compliance environment, and that's super exciting. It looks like we've also got, there's a fair few Australians actually that are presenting, which is always awesome, and it's great to see more representation from Australia going over.
Absolutely.
Matt Taylor is doing one, Practical Mac Security with Jamf. And so Matt is based in the UK now, but he is Australian.
I remember seeing him at the Jamf Sydney office a while ago, but thought, yeah, he'd made an international move.
Yes.
Good on him. And from a customer point of view, actually, in a similar way, Stu Lamont is someone that I've known through Melbourne Apple Admins. He's a great member of that community, contributes a lot to it by doing things like presenting at JNUC. But another member of the Melbourne Apple Admins community, Rowan Quigley from St Vincent's Institute, is doing a session on a topic near and dear to my heart. If you've been to the X-World conference that we've had in Melbourne the last couple of years, you may have seen me do a quick lightning talk at the end of the conference about this sort of stuff, given its prevalence within our little slice of the technology world. Rowan's session is embracing neurodiversity in IT, building inclusive workplaces for all. So I know earlier on we were talking about inclusive classrooms and all that sort of stuff. I think this is a trend, be it in the classroom or at work. Inclusivity is something we all recognise the value of. So good on Rowan for just getting up there, and he's put together a session that is designed for leadership to understand a little bit more about what it's like to manage people with neurodiversity. And I mean, I've got 2 different forms of it myself. It's not the same as neurotypical management of people and all that sort of stuff. So good on Rowan for that particular one. And we've seen software updates in the upcoming OSs moving entirely across into declarative device management, but the final session at JNUC is one that is related to an open source software update tool by Kevin White called Superman. So he's giving the Superman 3 session, which I saw, I think it was Superman 2 at JNUC in San Diego in 2022, which was awesome. And Superman is widely used. We use it here at Compnow, and many of our customer environments do too. And so, yeah, he's doing Superman 3. So he's a great speaker. I can only assume it's going to be a much better conference session than the actual movie was.
And for any education customers, if you're looking at the JNUC sessions when they are made publicly available, I would definitely be tuning into Anything by Anthony Darlow. Mm-hmm. So he's a consulting engineer at Jamf based out of the UK, and he services the education across EMEA. But his sessions are awesome. He's a great public speaker, and I think that they'll be really relevant to any education customer in Australia.
Well, I think my conference schedule's already pretty jam-packed, but I will make allowances for Anthony. So that brings us to the end of the webinar, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been awesome to learn more about some of these features. Like we were saying before, Jamf Parent, Jamf Teacher and Jamf Student are included with your Jamf licensing. So these are tools you can take advantage of without needing to make any sort of additional financial commitment. And as we've seen, when you're using these to their full extent, technology use in the classroom gets easier, more efficient. It does more to contribute towards learning outcomes. So it's definitely worth taking the time to learn more about this. If you need to learn more, we touched on it before, but you can contact Jamf and they will partner up with us. You can contact us and we will partner up with Jamf. It works pretty smoothly on both of those fronts. And that brings us to a close, folks. Aaron, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Damo.
Cheers. Compnow provides IT custom built for your needs. If you would like to know more about what we spoke about today, please get in touch with your Compnow account manager or email us at info@compnow.com.au. Cheers.